What is going on, guys? We are back with another video today on Tier Maker. It's not a Madden video. Hallelujah. And we're going to be ranking all 32 NFL teams. Now, before anyone gets too mad, remind you, this is an opinionated video. And if you guys know anything about me and opinions, I'm usually wrong. And, you know, they say opinions, you're never really wrong. It's an opinion. Well, I usually go above and beyond with that phrase, and I just choose to be wrong. So don't get too mad if you're a Jaguars fan and you see yourself in D or E and you're like, oh, we're clearly a C. You know, don't get too uptight, all right? Unless it's blatantly bad, like I have the Ravens at C or something like I did last year. Nothing. You know, take it with a grain of salt. Like the video, dislike the video, subscribe, please don't unsub, but like, you know, you don't have to choose to sub. But anyways, like I said, that's what the video is going to be. As far as future videos for the channel this week, I don't know exactly if EA Access is going to be dropping Madden 21 on Thursday, if it's going to be, 12 a.m. on Friday, midday Friday, I don't know. But the plan is to have this Power Rankings video today, tomorrow to do an experiment video, Wednesday to do a special Blast from the Past video based on a roster made by Muffled Box. Appreciate that a ton. He's a subscriber here. Thursday to do a special rebuild. And then Friday, probably not have any video planned because, once again, I think at least by midday Friday, we should have Madden 21 EA Access worthy, please. Regardless, enough of that. Let's get into this thing. Can't wait to prove everyone right. Am I wrong? What? You know what? The Dolphins are actually very close to that. I'm going to put the Jaguars at an E. The reason why I'm going to put that as an E is because, honestly, that division, it didn't really get necessarily better in the offseason outside of maybe a team or two. I honestly think that division is up for grabs now. I don't say that the Jaguars are one of those teams that are very likely to get, a player, to get that up for grabs title, but they're a team with a couple of young pieces, up-and-comers, but they are missing way too much on both sides of the ball. Going on to the next team, do we just do it by division, maybe? Let's just do it by division. And of course, with that being said, I obviously went to the NFL website to throw the standings on because I'm so smart, sometimes I forget who's in what division. I do like the way that Deshaun Watson is progressing, I suppose, in his career. However, he lost a player that any quarterback would become better with, Mr. DeAndre Hopkins, in one of the biggest head-scratching trades of the offseason. Well, maybe even one of the biggest head-scratching trades in the last half-decade, really, outside of maybe that Turner Russell Okung trade. But they got rid of one hell of a talent. I believe they do have now Brandon Cooks. But basically, their receiver group is built on a bunch of burners. You're basically saying that Deshaun Watson is going to have to be that super precise passer. There's none of this real jump ball, go get it type of situation. I do know that Fuller has made a couple of those types of plays, but overall, he's just not the same guy DeAndre Hopkins is. Honestly, I'm thinking it's the division keeping this Texans team in the B category. As pure roster goes, I need to see more from that offensive line, to be honest. I think they're still lacking on defense for sure. I think because of the division alone, I think they're going to be a low-caliber B team. Now, as far as the team that I think will take the division, it's got to be the Titans for sure. I'm going to place them. Can't tell if I want to put them at a high B or a low A. Tannehill, great game manager type guy. Derrick Henry, great game-wrecking guy. Receivers, I'd like to see a little bit more out of the guys that aren't named A.J. Brown. As far as the offensive line goes, they did lose Conklin, I believe, but they did get a first-round draft pick to replace him, so the offensive line is still in a decent spot. Defensively, that's one really good up-and-coming roster. They've got lots of big names across the board. Pass rush might be a little bit of a question. Has Harold Landry really proved himself to be that guy? I don't know. So I think, honestly, just for that pass rush kind of, worrying me a little bit, I think I'm going to put them at a high B for now. I think that's a fair assessment. I'm going to put the Colts in between. Oh, no. In between the Titans and the Texans. They're a team that I think will obviously benefit from Phillip Rivers joining the team. But It's a team where you think of their best player and you immediately think of Quentin Nelson. That offensive line has obviously vastly improved since Andrew Luck retired there. I think he probably can. It just kind of depends on what they want to do there. They've got a couple of other running backs in there that probably will get some decent snaps. Receiving-wise, T.Y. Hilton, he's obviously not getting any younger. He's kind of a smaller guy, but obviously an absolute beast. But outside of that, I mean, you got to hope Pittman develops quickly for this to be a deadly receiving group. Otherwise, it's just kind of a one-man show. The tight end's really more of a blocking set of guys, I think, ever since losing Ebron. So, you know, I think as far as the offense goes, it's not going to absolutely just smash you. They're probably going to get a lot done in their ground game, especially with a great offensive line. And as far as defense goes, definitely worry about those cornerbacks, hell, the DBs in general. But the Colts are one of those teams that have the potential to be great, but the roster right now, I don't know, it just kind of looks just slightly above average. I think we should go for the NFC East now. The Cowboys, I think, are going to get an A here. I don't think even with all the Cowboys haters out there, they can deny it. Zeke is obviously a great player. Receiving-wise, they got a steal in CeeDee Lamb. They probably didn't even need him. They had Amari Cooper. They had Michael Gallup. As far as tight end goes, we won't talk about it, but it's a tight end. I mean, even when Jason Witten was in his prime, he was a glorified first down secure, which I suppose is pretty valuable. Dak definitely gets worse of a rep than he's than he's worth. But you know, the contract situation, is that going to affect play? Is that going to affect the morale of the team? I don't know. Of course, offensive line, don't really need to say much about them. They've regressed a tiny bit over the years, but overall it's still a top 5 unit in the league. As far as D-line goes, I mean, they added Everson Griffin with DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, that is a D-line. They have Gerald McCoy, if I'm not mistaken. They have a very potent defensive line, and of course, that linebacking group did somehow weirdly regress last season, but if they can play up to what potential they should have, it becomes a top 3 linebacking group in the league. Of course, they did lose Byron Jones. However, they do still have some decent corners. They take Trayvon Diggs. Safeties, not insanely good, but they've got some names there with potential, definitely playmaking ability. So the Cowboys are without a doubt an A-tier roster. Now, as far as the Eagles go, this one might be one that Eagles fans will be mad at, but I'm going to put them at a high B. I think when this is all said and done, unless I have some other team there, the Eagles will probably be the highest B. Can make an argument for low A. The reason why I put him here is because Carson Wentz, there's obviously, injury concerns there. If Carson Wentz goes down, I don't think they're going to have some magical savior Nick Foles moment. Jalen Hurts being thrown out there probably isn't going to end well for him. Miles Sanders shows a lot of promise, but it is, it was a 1-year type thing. As far as receivers go, you can't be super confident there because not only are there a lot of older guys there, there's been injury concerns. I mean, hell, the whole Eagles roster has been, injury concern, but there's some injury concerns there. I think Marquise Goodwin was such a great addition. However, if I'm not mistaken, he did opt out for the COVID. Don't get me wrong, Ertz is great, and people seem to forget how great he is as of late, but Kittle and Kelsey are on a completely different just world from most players. And I know the stats might not prove it, but as far as a playmaker goes, would you actually want Ertz over Kelsey or Kittle? Because I don't. I simply don't. The offensive line gets a pretty decent grade. Defensive line, Brandon Graham, obviously not getting any younger. You still got Cox. You still got Brandon Graham, I believe. You still got some names. Of course, linebacker has been bad there for I don't even know how many years. Welcome, Green Bay, basically. So Jatavis Brown maybe adds something to him. I think he was injured last season, if I'm not mistaken. Something telling me about him not playing games, I feel, is definitely realistic. But cornerback, definitely a squad that was playing very poorly last year. Didn't help with injuries, but they added Darius Slay, who was obviously a huge player for them. That instantly turns their woes at corner to at least not their biggest issue on their team. Obviously, linebacker, I would say, is a bigger issue. But I think it's pretty safe to say that, a team like the Cowboys at A, that's a team I would expect to go 12-4, 13-3. A B+ would be at least 10 wins. Titans, I would say 10 wins. 8-9 for the Colts, 8-9 for the Texans. I just think it's a weird thing that on paper, The Giants seem like a way better team on offense than they do on defense, which is, kind of contrary to what they were through their dominant years. Of course, they did have some offensive playmakers for sure. They were a force on offense, but when you thought of the Giants for years, you would think of that defense, that pass rush. But right now, I don't really know if you can say there's much of a pass rush there. Obviously, New York been upgrading that line for a while now, and assuming Kevin Zeitler plays, that offensive line isn't terrible. Saquon's obviously great if he can play. Receivers, obviously, not as great as when Odell was there, but I like what Golden Tate has brought to the table over the years in the NFL. I like Golden Tate still, even at 31-32. It's an okay receiving group. Evan Ingram, he's a solid player. Daniel Jones, I think, is capable. Maybe still a little bit too early to tell. And then once again for the defense, there's not a whole lot going on. I think a high C is going to be fair for them. Then going to the AFC North is fair. We're going to put the Ravens all the way at an S tier. I will say the receiving group still kind of worries me a little bit. I do like the tight end. I like Marquise Brown. I think they've been improving every year. However, outside of Lamar Jackson, I don't know if that ground... I mean, they did get a steal with their draft with J.K. Dobbins, who could actually take a decent bit of the snaps in year one. O-line there is obviously a top 5 group. Defensively, that D-line kind of scares me. Linebacker, still something left to be desired. Corners, obviously insane. Safeties, definitely a little scary there as well. So, super fair S grade for the Ravens, I think. Now we go to the Steelers, a team on the rise. Really comes down to how Big Ben returns, how he bounces back. I think a mid-tier Steelers rating at B is fair for right now. Receivers, of course, they keep adding young talent, but outside of Juju, who himself has disappeared at times, really hasn't been consistent, really hasn't shown much. And I think they have Ebron at tight end now. I feel like their offense, I just don't know their identity. I think I've mentioned this once before. When I think of the Steelers, I don't know what the hell they're trying to do on offense. Like, are they a run team? Like, I don't really know. Obviously, once Big Ben returns, it's going to be a little bit different anyways. Obviously, a super underrated offensive line. Maybe not underrated. People probably giving them credit now, but very good offensive line, assuming everyone stays healthy, no one opts out or anything like that. Defensive line, really, really solid D-line. One of the better groups in the league, actually. Probably a top 8. To be fair, TJ Watt got super screwed in Madden, in fairness, but God, I wish the Packers drafted him. That would have been sick. But as far as the Steelers go, they've obviously vastly improved that defense. I mean, corner used to be such a huge problem for them, but Joe Hayden, guy that people have been underrating lately, Steven Nelson, they had a pretty good season, and obviously everyone wants to talk about Minka, which well-deserved in fairness. That secondary has been vastly improved. I just don't know if I trust Big Ben. I just don't know if I trust the offense, which is kind of crazy to think, because the Steelers, that big 3, the killer bees we always remember. But now it's like the killer Juju Smith-Schuster, who might just be a full-time streamer, not actually an NFL player. And now for the Bengals, that's going to be a fat F, to be honest. Joe Burrow is walking into one hell of an ugly situation. Joe Mixon is probably the best player on the Bengals roster right now. AJ Green, injury-prone, super old at this point. Still viable, but I'd probably put Mixon above him as of right now in his career. That offensive line scares me. I'm scared for Joe Burrow. The D-line, I mean, that Bengals team is just... It's a team that should honestly try to trade Joe and AJ Green off for whatever they can get. Just keep accumulating picks. The Dolphins knew what they were doing when they traded off Tunsil. I don't really like the Bengals roster at all. I mean, there's nothing wrong with their franchise or anything. I think it's a cool logo and all that stuff. But as far as the roster goes, they're an F tier for me, which is hard to place because... you got the Minshew Mania Jaguars above them. And then Browns, I think the Browns are a team that on paper are better than the Texans. I just don't know if I trust that organization. I know they moved around a lot there. Complete new coaching staff, if I'm not mistaken. On paper, that team looks sick, but it's going to be a very big learning year. Of course, with COVID already, it's going to be an interesting situation. They bolstered up that offensive line. I mean, on paper, this Browns team should be, high A, maybe an S, but maybe we just put them right in between here just because of that coaching staff. I don't know how it's going to go. I think the Browns are really primed to be one of those 10-plus win teams. Can maybe even steal the division on the Ravens, but I don't want to jump the gun too much because last year we did, almost everyone did, and it derailed very quickly. So I'm going to go with a playoff-bound Cleveland Browns team. We're going to place the Seahawks at a B. I believe last year before the season started, put them at a C, and a lot of people were giving me grief, but there was a lot of analysts agreeing. You know, they're just a team that just doesn't seem like they have it, especially in the secondary category. Of course, now with Jamal Adams, those first-round draft picks don't really apply to this situation because obviously it's the right-now situation, so it helps their case here. But overall, I still think they're missing a little bit of talent, but they're definitely a lot better than they were, you know, going into last year for sure. I mean, they were a Russell Wilson team. Now they're still a Russell Wilson team, but assuming injury doesn't plague those running backs, they've got a lot of potential on offense. You know, you still got Tyler Lockett. You've got DK Metcalf, who had a really good rookie year. I don't know the situation on Josh Gordon now, I can't lie, but you've got Greg Olsen. That offensive line is not vastly improving, but it's slightly improving every single season, I suppose. I still worry about their right tackle's position, though. That's a worry. The main thing, though, that worries me is I know they're like, their defense is stacked. No, it's literally not. As much as the Legion of Boom was great, there was a bit of a pass rush in Seattle during those years as well. D-line worries the hell out of me, not in a good way. As long as Russell Wilson is healthy, though, they're always going to be a B team, so I don't know why I ever put them below a B team. I think above the Browns, Steelers, Colts, and Texans is fair. Maybe you can make an argument above the Titans. If the Eagles stay healthy, I don't think they're better than them, but Russell is just so damn good that he really can he himself makes them a D team or an A team, potentially an A team. You know, that's how good he is. Now for the rest of the NFC West, the Niners, they didn't really lose a whole bunch. They lost a little bit from the running back game. Buckner was a pretty decent loss in fairness, but they had a pretty decent draft. They added to that receiving group. There's not really much to say about the Niners. They're just very good top to bottom. They lost Joe Staley, but they gained potentially better Trent Williams, assuming he plays. Obviously, there's a lot of question marks with him all the damn time. This is such an interchangeable one at A. I don't know. Cardinals, this is a tough one. I think they're going to be a high C for me. I know there's going to be a lot of Cardinals fans that are mad. DeAndre Hopkins is great. Don't get me wrong. Is Isaiah Simmons, that was a steal. Josh Jones, the tackle, is a steal. But you look at the team, and it's still missing something. You know, Kyler Murray, maybe he can develop, maybe not into Russell per se, but because they kind of do have that similar build, a lot of comparisons between them to, the ability to extend plays and whatnot, definitely can take away, or I guess help distract from a bad offensive line. But that offensive line is still a problem. Kenyon Drake, is he going to be that, is he going to be able to carry the load? I do not know. I'd lean towards probably not. DeAndre Hopkins is a great receiver, but you take away, you kind of compare that to the Texans, and he's almost stepped into another same situation. No tight end. Back of the number 2 wide receiver is good, but he's not super complimentary. In this case, maybe even worse, technically. I know I love Larry Fitzgerald for what he can do catching-wise, but Larry Fitzgerald's a guy you don't really have to put a whole lot of attention to at this point in his career, age-wise. I mean, Christian Kirk, he's almost on the verge of being let go. Like, he hasn't really shown up the way the Cardinals need him to. We've already been over the O-line. As far as defense goes, their pass rush consists of Chandler Jones. It's going to consist of Isaiah Simmons now as well. I think he's going to be blitzing a lot. They have done things to improve their linebackers, but overall, pass rush-wise, run-stop-wise, not a whole lot's been done. Patrick Peterson, he's been a little up and down. Their defense is a little bit better than it was last season, but I think a high C, a low B is fair for them. The main reason why they wouldn't be higher than this, though, is because of the division. At the end of the day, this is a power rankings for their team. Also, you have to consider their path to the playoffs. The main goal is the playoffs, and then, obviously beyond. I don't think there's enough spots in the NFC, especially the NFC West, for the Cardinals to make the playoffs. I just don't. I think a high C is fair. Now for the Rams, this is a tough one. I don't know. I might put them behind the Cardinals here. Coming off of a 9-7 season. I know 9-7 is not terrible. However, coming off of a 9-7 season, losing Todd Gurley, completely new running back. How are they going to play? I don't know. That offensive line, it's getting worse every season pretty much. Defensively, Aaron Donald is your guy, basically. Ibukam, I guess he's decent, but it's Aaron Donald. Now you have Jalen Ramsey, I suppose. But outside of 2, maybe 3 guys, that defense is missing lots and lots of players. Like, I just feel like if they can't get the ground game going, Jared Goff is going to struggle even more than he has. I'm going to put him in the middle of the pack C. I think so far right now we're kind of nailing it. But, of course, overalls and roster potential are completely different. Who knows? Maybe the Niners have an injury, completely throws everything off. I don't know. But that is the NFC West. Once again, we're about halfway through the video. Let me know what you guys think so far of it. You know, give it to me in the comment section. Tell me how wrong I am or how great of a pick you think I made. How, like, wow, that's really good insight, which no one's going to say. All right, now for a division that's kind of the worst in the AFC, but one that people will be paying attention to, the AFC East. Now, we're going to put the Patriots at a far low B. The reason why I put them there is because it's not the hardest division to win, but obviously losing Brady is a loss. I don't care. Cam Newton, obviously it could have been a lot worse. It could have been Stidham starting for him, but offensive line is the highlight there besides defense. I think this is a little bit tougher because they are a very good defense. They're very good. You know, some of the names might not be super flashy. However, there's a lot of people opting out as well, so I'm going to put them above the Texans, below the Colts at a B. This is basically like just at the playoff level, maybe 8 or 9 wins. Defense, it looks really good on paper, and they played really well, but something tells me they're going to take a bit of a dip without Tom Brady around. I'm just saying. Low B. Fair? I think it's fair. Miami Dolphins, that's going to be a fat F. Fat F. Overpaid a little bit for Kyle Van Noy on defense. They've improved their defense. I don't really like the fact that they haven't really improved their offense. Offensive line still worries me. QB, Tua Tagovailoa, his injury history worries me. I wouldn't play him within the next 2 years if I'm them, but there's a chance he plays this season. There's a lot of question marks with the Dolphins, and I don't think there's a single answer that leads them even close to the playoffs. I'm going to go with the Jets now. I'm going to put them above the Jags in the E class. What kind of Sam Darnold are we going to get? Is he going to play? I don't freaking know. Le'Veon Bell, obviously, is going to be playing again behind one of the worst D-lines or offensive lines in the league. Probably an F-class offensive line. Bottom 3, bottom 5 offensive line for sure. Receivers, you know, they lost Anderson. There's a lot of question marks at wide receiver. I don't even know who the true number 1 is going to be there right now. Defense, not much better. They lost Jamal Adams. Screw that. The Jets are terrible. Jets are going the F class. I'm sorry, Jets fans. It's been a while since those back-to-back AFC Championship trip days. And now for the final team in the division. Oh, Jesus, we're having issues. We're going to put the Bills right behind the Browns based on roster. As far as chances of making the playoffs go, I'd probably put them over the Titans, but you know, it's a little mix between the both of them. No one's going to argue that wide receiving group got 10 times better. We're basing this mainly off of last year, though. That defense, I don't know how they do it. They just somehow end up being a top-tier defense all the time. Tre'Davious White, obviously, with those safeties, plays a huge factor, but that defense is just ridiculous. I don't know how they do it. They've won games for them, a lot of them last season. Josh Allen, I mean, you're hoping as a Bills fan that each year he gets better. I can't tell if that's going to be the case, of course. He overthrows people a lot, but at least now he has a guy that can actually properly get open on a consistent basis. Maybe a guy you can actually trust. O-line's kind of, you know, a little about average, maybe a little below average. It's an above average team with, you know, not a super high ceiling in my opinion. I outside of Josh Allen, who's still a question mark, it's just not a team with a super high ceiling, but should make that 10-win mark for the playoffs just like they did last season. Oh, by the way, the Washington football team's so bad, I completely forgot about them. However, they're an E team. Haskins, lots of potential. Running back, completely wide open. Who the freaking hell knows? Receivers, outside of Terry McLaurin, super question mark. O-line, very big question mark. D-line, top 5 in the league. Definitely top 5 in the league. They're going to get an E basically because of the quarterback situation, Terry McLaurin, and that D-line. Basically everything else, a bit worrisome. Team with some potential, still missing a lot. Sorry, Washington football team fans. I forgot. But moving on to yet another stacked NFC division. Let's go to the Falcons, who have made quite a bit of strides. And I think they're going to be at the back of the B class. Todd Gurley, that's a huge addition. Probably better than Freeman, was. Even though I don't think he was there last year. I don't remember. He's kind of injury prone near the end of his career there. Obviously a huge addition there. It's a win. They do lose Hooper. I can't remember who they replaced him with. Oh, they traded a lot for Hayden Hurst, didn't they? Was that a second-round pick trade to the Ravens? Don't tell me it was. That's crazy. As far as offensive line goes, definitely a line that has gotten worse over the years. I remember maybe 5 years ago or so, really good O-line. Now it's terrible. Pass rush, still something they're kind of, looking to get in Atlanta. I think Grady Jarrett's great. You got Deion Jones. That's about it. Corners, very big question mark there. Honestly, I'm starting to move this team back a little bit. I just think that offense has such a boom potential that it can obviously negate some of the defensive errors, which they've had quite a bit of issues on defense. Put them at the back of B, 8-win team that doesn't make the playoffs, maybe, I suppose. All right, Buccaneers, a team that I think belongs right behind the Titans, a 10, maybe 11-win team. Tom Brady, obviously, huge addition. Gronk, most likely going to be a huge addition. Already had O.J. Howard. You have the best receiving group in the entire NFL. Running back, are they going to give Ronald Jones another go? I do not know. O-line, still a little bit to be desired, but they did a decent job ever since signing Brady. It's like, as soon as they signed Brady, their organization became good and smart. They had a good draft. They did what they felt like they needed to do. The defense is still lacking a little bit, but they've got some potential. Shaquille Barrett, obviously, playing under, I believe, the tag for what, like 20 mil or 15, 20 mil, if I'm not mistaken. Linebackers, Levante and Devin. I can't remember. I felt like Levante was either injured or opted out. Did he? I don't know, but they have, on paper, a pretty solid team. Their corners up and coming. Antoine Winfield Jr. could be one of those like immediate starting players that just does a really good job to fill the role. But the biggest question mark is that secondary and obviously that offensive line. But overall, 10, 11 win team, a team that should put up a lot of points outside of, an injury, which, a lot of teams you can make that argument for. And then the Panthers, I just think it's a roster missing a lot. I think the receiving group has a chance to do good things, but there were talks about them getting rid of Curtis Samuel. Please come to Green Bay for whatever it takes. Just do it. Teddy Bridgewater, a little bit of an overpriced starting quarterback option. I don't think he's going to be, he could be, but I don't think he's going to be anything better than Cam was for them. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey, basically the best running back in football. The most weird, probably the worst trade of the offseason. Okung, they get Okung, they trade Try Turner. I don't get it. That offensive line, it's okay, but Okung looks like he might even retire. That D-line, probably their biggest asset besides Christian McCaffrey over there. I think it's a C team. They're just missing a lot. And of course, for the Saints, we're going to put them at number 1. I think they have the most complete... I'm going to put the Saints at number 1. They have the most complete roster in the league, I think. They're a solid roster. The AFC West, the Broncos, we're going to put them at above the Falcons. A lot of B-tier teams, if you could tell. The Broncos, what is Drew Lock going to do? Did we see enough from him yet? No. Does he have the potential? Yes. Running backs, they've got a decent bit of them. Receivers, they've turned into a top 5 potential squad. Tight ends, decent there too. Got a lot of speed. O-line, still a little bit of a question mark, but it's getting better. Pass rush, definitely something you worry about if you're facing against them for sure. Top 5 in the league easily. Linebackers, lots to be desired. Corners, a decent bit to be desired. Safeties, perfectly fine. It's a team that is only this far back here because of the division they play in and because I don't know what we're going to see from Drew Lock. Looking at the Raiders, I think they're a top-tier C team. Derek Carr just seems to be regressing ever so slightly every year, which, to start off on his platform, it's not great. Every single regression. Josh Jacobs, a lot of potential, obviously. Receivers, huge question marks there. Henry Ruggs, maybe a little bit of a reach, but a fair enough pick. Darren Waller, probably their best playmaker day 1. O-line, getting older, but it's actually a pretty damn decent O-line, assuming, injuries don't plague them. That's one of their plus marks, I would say. D-line, Farrell, Clellan, it's iffy. Max Crosby obviously had a pretty good year. DTs, on paper look decent. Linebackers, Kwiatkowski, good addition, but still a little bit of a worry. Corner, they reached for Arnett. Even if he's really, really good, still a huge question mark at corner. Safety, not terrible, but overall, I don't know what I'm going to see from Derek Carr. I don't think their wide receivers are great enough. Maybe they belong in a B as well, but I'll live with this one being, an unfair ranking. Now, for a team that I had winning it all last season, we're going to put them right below the Seahawks. As far as talent outside of QB goes, they're an A grade, but we have no idea how their QB position is going to play, which is why I had Herbert so high. I put him on an average, didn't even put him in rookie class, because he has so much potential with how many crazy weapons he has. If that Chargers team stays healthy, they have potentially the best roster top to bottom. It's a very solid roster, but we don't know how their QB play is going to be. We don't even know who's going to start. They're going to be about middle of the pack B. Could be a 9 to 10 win team. And then the Chiefs, we're going to put at an S tier right behind the Ravens. The only reason why I put them right up behind the Ravens is because that O-line is a little worrisome. I mean, they've got one good offensive lineman, maybe two. Eric Fisher kind of, turned his career around a little bit in Kansas City. It's still a team that worries me offensive line-wise, but because you have Mahomes, he can kind of make throws off the platform on the run and all that stuff. It's a guy that's very hard to bring down unless you get an insta-rush, which, with the opt-out of Tardif and whatnot, you could get a lot of instant rushes on him. Of course, Edwards-Helaire, probably going to be a very big receiving option for them. Overall, I think you could maybe make an argument for them to be an A-class team because, like I said, that O-line I think is going to be a problem for them. I really do. But that defense still has a lot of potential. Corner worries me quite a bit there, but they have safeties that can maybe make up for it. You know what? Man, QB play is really affecting a lot of these decisions. You switch Mahomes with Matt Ryan, I think you drop him down to an A, but Mahomes with Kelsey and Tyreek, I'm going to keep him in an S. I have to. We're going to move the Titans to an A. I think we're going to move the Titans to an A. I actually like their roster top to bottom, and I like the way they play. I like that they know what they want to do. I'm also going to move the Panthers down to a D. But as far as the last division, you kind of knew this was either going to be the first or the last because I'm a Packers fan. We're going to start with the Chicago Bears, who I'm going to put at the top of C. The defense still has lots of potential. The pass rush, I think, is a little bit of a worry because of the fact that they paid Dante Fowler so much. He was a very impactful player. I just think they paid him too much and for too long. He's, 28, 29 now. They gave him a 5-year deal, I believe, worth $50 million. I will say, we'll get a lot more done than Leonard Floyd did. So that Bears pass rush could be a bit scary, but they are lacking a little bit in the secondary, I suppose. But overall, the Bears defense is the one carrying them. I don't think Trubisky's the guy. I really don't. I think Matt Nagy tried to, I wouldn't say dumb down the system because there were a few complex things, but try to make it as easy as possible and fit around his skills as much as he could, and it just hasn't worked. Like I said, I truly believe Nick Foles is going to take that starting job at some point during the regular season. I think Trubisky's the day one starter. Maybe week 5, week 6, when you see a 2-3, 2-4 record, I think Nick Foles might take the job. I don't know how much better he'll play, but overall, the Bears are definitely lacking on the offensive line now. The receivers aren't really that great. Jimmy Graham was an overpayment as well. I don't know. I think the Bears' defense makes them a B. I think their offense, which is going to be lacking, drops them to a D. So right in the middle is where I place them. So Bears, maybe B, B plus defense. Offense, about a D. Put them at the high C. I think it's fair. Now for the Lions, a very tough team to place. I'm going to drop the Falcons down to the top of C. That defense is just not good enough. I'm going to put the Lions at a B, a back-end B, a 7, maybe 8-win team. They did a very good job in the offseason. Obviously, losing Slay sucks, but they added Trufant, Coleman in the slot, Okuda at number 2 probably. I would say this is a B- team with like a 7 to 8 win, kind of window-ish. Receivers, definitely not bad in Detroit. O-line's really holding them back, and I would say so is linebacker. But it's a team with high potential, just playing in the division that might be too tough for them. Now we move to the Vikings, who are probably willing to put the Broncos above these guys. I'm going to put the Vikings I think because the Texans are playing that division, they have a better chance. But the Vikings just barely above the Lions. Kirk Cousins, I think, is about as solid of a starter you can get. I wouldn't call him a great player, but I think he's solid, dependable guy. Dalvin Cook, if he stays healthy, which he did last season, is a top 5 back in the league. Adam Thielen, great receiver, aging. No Diggs to back him up, though. I really wanted Justin Jefferson for the Packers. Obviously, he didn't sit there. I think he could have a really good rookie year. Tight ends, still a very solid tandem. O-line, they just haven't figured it out yet, and that's really the big thing holding them back, I feel, especially for the passing game. D-line, it's Danielle Hunter. That is it. I mean, he's a great player, but they are severely lacking. No Michael Pierce, who they paid a decent bit to get, a guy they were depending on to try and hold down the fort. Overall, that D-line worries me for them. Linebacker's great. Corner, a little bit of a worry. They tried to address it. I don't think they did it yet. And then, of course, Harrison Smith. Safeties are actually pretty solid in Minnesota. I just think that O-line is going to be so much of a burden, and the lack of pass rush, maybe we put them a little bit higher than that. I'll put them above the Broncos. I don't like that QB play situation. And then for the Packers, this is a tough one. This is so tough because that receiving group is terrible. Cornerback is so hit or miss outside of Jair. Safeties, I think they're very good. Top 10 tandem in the league. We'll do a last-second adjustment. I'm going to put the Packers at an A. Zadarius Smith, as the league ended last season, he had the, I believe, number 1 pressures, number 2 in double-team sacks, if I'm not mistaken. Lots of number 1s and number 2s in his season. Outside of, I believe, Myles Garrett before he did what he did. He was the best pass rusher in the league last year, technically by numbers, the numbers that actually matter. And hell, his sacks numbers weren't bad either. Preston Smith had a really good year. Kenny Clark maybe a little bit of a down year, but he just got a payday. Comfortable now. Really good player. One of the best nose tackles in the league. The big question is, though, O-line. I worry about that O-line a little bit. You lose Bulaga, who's injury prone a little bit, but solid when he's in there. The O-line's decent, right? But I worry about the right side of the line right now. Receiver, with Funches opting out, you didn't add a single name. You can make the argument, they added these undrafted guys. They're doing so well in practice. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. It's a long shot story. It's a waste of time. Packers receivers are a huge question mark. Tight end got worse. If Devontae goes down, this team drops from an A to a mid to low B. Aaron Jones, obviously a solid starter. Aaron Rodgers, regressing a little bit, but I'd say still a safe bet at maybe the 5th best QB in the league right now, maybe 4th, with the potential to easily be number 2 or 3. I don't think anyone's dethroning Mahomes anytime soon outside of an injury. And then looking at the defensive side, we went through the pass rush. Top 5 to 8 defensive line in the league, maybe even better if you consider last year as the only reference point, because 1 year is 1 year at the end of the day, but they were ferocious. Once again, covers linebackers, super worrisome. No Blake automatically improves your linebacker situation. However, Kirksey, super injury prone. Oren Burks coming off of a season-ending injury. Huge question marks there. We already said number 2 corner, 50-50. Kevin King looks like a great player at times. Sometimes he disappears. Josh Jackson usually disappears in general. Savage, really good rookie season. Strong safety, Amos, a little bit of a down year, but still really good season. I think it's a very fair A team. If you draft wide receiver in round 1 instead of Love, the team is ready for a Super Bowl. It really is. As far as this goes, 13 win Saints. Obviously, then someone's going to calculate, that doesn't make sense. These teams can't be. Off the top of my head, 13 win Chiefs, 14 win Ravens. I don't know the schedules. 13 wins all across the S tier. 12 for the Niners, 11 for the Cowboys, 11 for the Packers, 10 for the Titans, 10 for the Buccaneers, 9 for the Eagles. Injuries are going to be a problem. 9 for the Chargers, 10 for the Seahawks, 9 for the Browns, 10 for the Bills, 8 for the Steelers, 9 for the Colts, 9 for the Vikings, 7 for the Broncos. I just think Drew Lock's going to be a problem for them in a bad way. 8 wins for the Patriots, 8 wins for the Texans, 7 wins, 7, 8, and 1 for the Lions, 7 wins for the Falcons, 7 wins for the Bears, 7 wins for the Raiders, 7 for the Cardinals, 7 for the Rams, 5-10-1 for the Giants, 5-10-1 for the Panthers, 4-11-1 for the Redskins, 4-12 for the Dolphins, 3-13 for the Jags, 2-14 for the Jets, 1-15 for the Bengals. All off the top of my head. And as far as changing the rankings around, this is what my rankings look like. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. This might have been a longer video, but it's going to be a standalone anyways, so hopefully you guys did enjoy it. If you like more of these in the future, let me know by leaving a like and subscribing, or just literally let me know in the comment section below. I don't know what the second channel is going to be looking like. I'm trying to record as many videos as I can right now, so then I have something there, because I don't think I'll have a lot of time to record those types of games or stream those types of games when Madden 21 releases very, very soon. But take a look at PKR Plays, twitch.tv/Jeromepkr for, the Twitch channel, twitter.com/Jeromepkr. Anyways, that was the video for today. You already know the plans for the rest of the week. Thanks for watching. Hopefully you come back for next video. But until next video, don't kill me. And see ya!